Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our English podcast. My name is Jack, and I'm very happy you're here today. If you are learning English and you want to speak simple, real English, this podcast is for you. Today, want to share about history of Italy. Before we start, please like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who is learning English. Good job for being here. Now, relax, sit comfortably, and let's start. Chapter 1. Ancient Italy and the Rise of Rome. 1.1. The Setting, a Land of Diversity. To understand the history of Italy, we must first look at its geography. Italy is a long, boot-shaped peninsula stretching into the Mediterranean Sea. In ancient times, this land was not a single nation, but a patchwork of different cultures and tribes. To the north, the towering Alps mountains protected the land, while the Apennines ran down the center like a spine. Before Rome became a name known to the world, Italy was home to the Italic tribes, the Latins, the Sabians, and the Samnites. These were simple farmers and herders. However, two other civilizations were much more advanced, the Etruscans in the north and the Greeks in the south. 1.2. The Mysterious Etruscans. Between the 8th and 5th centuries BC, the Etruscans were the most powerful people in central Italy. They were skilled engineers, wealthy traders, and talented artists. They built cities with organized streets and complex drainage systems. The Romans learned a great deal from the Etruscans. The famous Roman arch, the alphabet, and even the toga, the iconic Roman clothing, all had Etruscan origins. Without the Etruscan influence, Rome might never have become the great city we remember today. 1.3. The Legend of the Founding, 753 BC. Every great civilization has a foundation myth. For Rome, it is the story of Romulus and Remus. Legend says they were twin brothers, the sons of Mars, the god of war. Abandoned as infants by the Tiber River, they were found and nursed by a she-wolf. Eventually, the brothers decided to build the city. However, they fought over where to locate it. Romulus killed Remus and became the first king of the city, which he named Rome. While historians know this is a myth, it symbolizes the Roman belief that they were a people born of strength, struggle, and divine protection. 1.4. The Seven Kings and the Birth of the Republic. For its first 244 years, Rome was ruled by kings. Some were Roman, others Etruscan. During this time, the city grew from a small cluster of huts on the Palatine Hill into the significant city-state. However, the last king, Tarquin the Proud, was a cruel tyrant. In 509 BC, the Roman people revolted and drove him out. They decided they would never again be ruled by a king. Instead, they established a republic, from the Latin res publica, meaning a public matter. This was a revolutionary idea. The government belonged to the people. 1.5. Social structure, patricians and plebeians. Early Republican Rome was divided into two main social classes. Patricians, the wealthy aristocrats and landowners who held all the political power, and plebeians, the common people, farmers, artisans, and merchants who made up the majority of the population. For centuries, the plebeians struggled for more rights. This conflict of the orders eventually led to the creation of the 12 Tables, the first written laws of Rome. These laws were displayed in the Forum for everyone to see, ensuring that justice was not just a tool for the rich. 1.6. Conquering the Peninsula. Once the Republic was stable, Rome began to look outward. They were masters of military organization. One by one, they defeated their neighbors. By 290 BC, they controlled central Italy. By 272 BC, they defeated the Greek colonies in the south. Rome did something unique with the people they conquered. Instead of making them slaves, they often made them allies. These allies had to provide soldiers for the Roman army,
But in return, they received protection and a share of the spoils of war. By the mid-3rd century BC, the entire Italian peninsula was under Roman control. Chapter 2. The Roman Empire, the master of the world. 2.1. The death of the Republic. As Rome conquered more lands around the Mediterranean, its government, the Republic, began to struggle. Powerful generals started to compete for control. The most famous of these was Julius Caesar. He was a brilliant military leader who conquered Gaul, modern-day France. When he returned to Rome, he took absolute power and was declared dictator for life. However, many senators feared he wanted to become a king. In 44 BC, on a day known as the Ides of March, Caesar was assassinated. His death led to years of civil war, ending the Roman Republic forever. 2.2. Augustus, the first emperor. From the ashes of the Civil War rose Caesar's great-nephew, Octavian. After defeating his rivals, he took the name Augustus and became the first official emperor of Rome in 27 BC. Augustus was a master of organization. He didn't call himself a king. Instead, he used the title princeps, or first citizen. Under Augustus, Rome entered a long period of stability and prosperity known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. This golden age lasted for nearly 200 years. 2.3. Life in the imperial city. At its height, the city of Rome had over 1 million residents. It was the center of the world. The emperors kept the people happy with a policy called bread and circuses. This meant they provided free grain and spectacular entertainment. The most iconic venue for this entertainment was the Colosseum, a massive stone amphitheater that could hold 50,000 people. Here, Romans watched gladiator battles and even mock naval battles. Nearby was the Circus Maximus, where thrilling chariot races were held. These events were essential for keeping the restless population under control. 2.4. Engineering and architecture. The Romans were perhaps the greatest engineers of the ancient world. They perfected the use of the arch and concrete, allowing them to build massive structures that still stand today. One of their greatest achievements was the aqueduct system. These were long stone bridges that used gravity to carry fresh water from the mountains directly into the city's fountains and public baths. They also built a network of over 50,000 miles of paved roads. These roads were so well made that it was said, "All roads lead to Rome." 2.5. The spread of Christianity. During the 1st century, a new religion began to spread within the empire, Christianity. At first, Christians were persecuted because they refused to worship the Roman gods. They had to meet in secret, often in underground tunnels called catacombs. However, the religion grew rapidly among the poor and the oppressed. Everything changed in 313 AD when Emperor Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, making Christianity legal. Eventually, it became the official religion of the empire, changing the course of Western history. 2.6. The decline and fall, 476 AD. No empire lasts forever. By the 3rd century, Rome faced many problems: economic inflation, corrupt leaders, and constant attacks from Germanic tribes to the north. To manage the chaos, the empire was split into 2 halves: the Western Roman Empire, based in Rome, and the Eastern Roman Empire, based in Constantinople. In 476 AD, the last Western emperor, a boy named Romulus Augustulus, was overthrown by a Germanic chieftain. The Eternal City had fallen, and Italy entered a dark and fragmented period known as the Middle Ages. Chapter 3. The Middle Ages and the Power of the Church. 3.1. The Dark Ages. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD, Italy entered a period often called the Middle Ages. For many years, people thought of this as the Dark Ages because the glory of Rome had faded. But in reality, it was a time of great change and the birth of new ideas. Italy was no longer a single empire. It became a battlefield for different tribes and powers. The Ostrogoths, the Lombards, and the Byzantines all fought for control of the beautiful Italian peninsula. 3.2. The Rise of the Papal States. With no emperor in Rome to protect the people, the Bishop of Rome, known as the Pope, became more than just a religious leader. He became a political leader. In the 8th century, a powerful Frankish king named Pepin the Short gave a large area of central Italy to the Pope. This land became known as the Papal States. For the next 1,000 years, the Pope was not just the head of the Catholic Church, but also a king with his own army and laws. This made the Church the most stable and powerful institution in all of Europe. 3.3. Charlemagne and the Holy Roman Empire. In the year 800 AD, on Christmas Day, a historic event took place in Rome. Pope Leo III crowned the Frankish king Charlemagne as the Emperor of the Romans. This was the beginning of the Holy Roman Empire. It was an attempt to bring back the unity of ancient Rome under the protection of the Church. Although the empire was mostly centered in Germany, its heart and soul were always connected to Italy and the Pope in Rome.
3.4. The feudal system in Italy. Like the rest of Europe, Italy adopted the feudal system. In this system, land was power. Kings and nobles owned the land, and in exchange for protection, peasants, known as serfs, worked the fields. However, in Italy, this system was a bit different. Because of Italy's long coastline, cities remained more important than in other parts of Europe. This led to the rise of independent city-states that would eventually challenge the power of the nobles. 3.5. The Crusades and Trade. In the 11th century, the Crusades began, a series of religious wars to recover the Holy Land. These wars had a massive impact on Italy. Italian port cities like Venice, Genoa, and Pisa provided the ships and supplies for the Crusaders. This trade made these cities incredibly wealthy. They began to control the Mediterranean Sea, bringing spices, silk, and ancient knowledge back from the East. Venice, in particular, became a superpower built entirely on water and wealth. This prosperity was the first spark that would eventually lead to the Renaissance. Universities and knowledge. The Middle Ages were also a time of learning. In 1088, the University of Bologna was founded in Italy. It is the oldest university in continuous operation in the world. Scholars traveled from all over Europe to Italy to study law, medicine, and theology. Even in a divided land, Italy remained a center for education and the preservation of the Latin language. Chapter 4. The Renaissance, the Rebirth of Art and Culture. 4.1. What was the Renaissance? After the long years of the Middle Ages, a golden light began to shine over Italy. This period is known as the Renaissance, a French word meaning rebirth. It began in the 14th century and lasted until the 16th century. It was a time when Italians rediscovered the forgotten knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome. They moved away from the strict focus on religion and began to celebrate human potential, beauty, and science. This new way of thinking was called humanism. 4.2. Florence, the cradle of the Renaissance. While the Renaissance spread all over Europe, it started in one specific city, Florence or Firenze. In the 1400s, Florence was one of the richest cities in the world. Its wealth came from banking and the wool trade. The city was ruled by the Medici family, a powerful dynasty of bankers who loved art.
They used their massive fortune to pay the greatest artists, architects, and thinkers of the time to create works that would make Florence the most beautiful city on earth. This era produced geniuses whose names we still speak with wonder in 2026. First, there was Leonardo da Vinci. He was the ultimate Renaissance man, an artist, scientist, engineer, and inventor. He spent years studying the human body to make his paintings look real. His most famous work, the Mona Lisa, is known for her mysterious smile. He also filled notebooks with sketches of flying machines and tanks centuries before they were actually built. Then there was Michelangelo. He was a master of the human form. When he was only in his early 20s, he carved the Pietà and the giant statue of David. Later, he spent 4 years lying on his back to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome. His work showed that humans were not just servants of God, but were created in his image, beautiful and powerful.
4.4. The Architecture of Harmony. Renaissance architects rejected the pointy, dark Gothic style of the Middle Ages. Instead, they looked back at Roman ruins. They used domes, arches, and columns to create buildings that felt balanced and harmonious. Filippo Brunelleschi achieved the impossible by building the massive dome of the Florence Cathedral, which was the largest of its kind at the time. This spirit of building for glory also led to the construction of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, the heart of the Catholic world. 4.5. The Birth of Science and Discovery. The Renaissance was not just about art, it was about asking why and how. Galileo Galilei, an Italian physicist and astronomer, used his improved telescope to prove that the Earth revolves around the Sun. Though the Church tried to silence him, his ideas laid the foundation for modern science. At the same time, explorers like Amerigo Vespucci, after whom America is named, and Christopher Columbus from Genoa were setting sail to find new worlds, fueled by the Renaissance spirit of curiosity. 4.6. The Spread of Ideas. In the mid-15th century, the invention of the printing press helped Renaissance ideas spread like wildfire. Books became cheaper, and people began to read poetry, philosophy, and science in their own language rather than just Latin. This led to a more educated society and eventually changed the politics and religion of the entire world. By the end of the 16th century, Italy had transformed the mind of Europe forever. Chapter 5. The Risorgimento, the Unification of Italy. 5.1. A Land Divided. For centuries after the Renaissance, Italy was often described by politicians as just a geographical expression. It was not a country. The north was mostly controlled by the Austrian Empire, the center was ruled by the Pope, and the south was the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies under Spanish influence. Italians spoke different dialects and had different laws, but in the early 19th century, a dream began to grow in the hearts of the people, the dream of Risorgimento, which means the resurgence or rising again.
5.2. The Three Heroes of Unification. The story of how Italy became one nation is the story of three very different men. Giuseppe Mazzini, the Soul. He was a writer and a revolutionary. He founded a secret society called Young Italy. He spent much of his life in exile, but his words inspired millions of Italians to believe that they deserved to be free and united. Camillo di Cavour, the Brain. He was the prime minister of Piedmont, Sardinia, a powerful kingdom in the north. He was a master of diplomacy. He knew that Italy couldn't defeat Austria alone, so he made clever alliances with France to win back northern lands. Giuseppe Garibaldi, the Sword. He was a legendary soldier. In 1860, he led a small army of 1,000 volunteers known as the Red Shirts. They landed in Sicily and, against all odds, conquered the entire south of Italy to hand it over to the cause of unity. 5.3. The Birth of the Kingdom, 1861. In 1861, after many battles and political deals, the Kingdom of Italy was officially proclaimed. Victor Emmanuel II, the King of Piedmont Sardinia, became the first king of a united Italy. However, the map was still not complete. The beautiful city of Venice was still under Austrian rule, and Rome was still ruled by the Pope, protected by French soldiers. 5.4. Rome, the final piece of the puzzle. Italians felt that without Rome, the country had no heart. In 1870, when France was busy fighting a war with Prussia, they withdrew their soldiers from Rome. Italian troops quickly moved in and captured the city. The Pope retreated into the Vatican, and Rome was declared the capital of Italy. After more than 1,300 years since the fall of the Roman Empire, the Italian peninsula was finally under one flag again. 5.5. Challenges of a new nation. Unifying Italy on a map was easier than unifying the people. A famous politician once said, "We have made Italy, now we must make Italians." The North was industrial and wealthy, while the South was agricultural and poor. Many people in the South felt ignored by the new government, leading to years of social tension and emigration. Millions of Italians began to leave their homes, traveling to America, Argentina, and Brazil in search of a better life. This created the massive Italian diaspora we see across the world today. Chapter 6. Modern Italy, from World Wars to the Republic. 6.1. Italy and the First World War. At the beginning of the 20th century, Italy was a young nation still trying to find its place in Europe. When World War I broke out in 1914, Italy at first remained neutral. However, in 1915, they joined the Allies, Britain and France. The war was brutal, especially in the cold, snowy peaks of the Alps. Although Italy emerged as a winner, the cost was terrible. Over 600,000 soldiers died, and the country was left with high debt and social unrest. 6.2. The Rise of Fascism and Mussolini. In this time of chaos, a new and dangerous ideology appeared: fascism. Its leader was Benito Mussolini, a powerful speaker who promised to bring order and return Italy to the glory of the Roman Empire. In 1922, after the March on Rome, Mussolini took power and became a dictator known as Il Duce. Mussolini controlled every part of life: schools, the press, and the economy. He spent a lot of money on big buildings and roads to show strength, but he also took away the people's freedom. His biggest mistake was forming an alliance with Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. 6.3. World War II and the Resistance. Italy entered World War II in 1940 as part of the Axis powers. But the war was a disaster for the Italian people. Cities were bombed and food was scarce. By 1943, the Allies invaded Sicily and Mussolini was removed from power. This was a time of great division. While the South was liberated, the North remained under German occupation. Brave Italians, known as partisans, fought a secret war against the Nazis. This resistance movement is a very proud part of modern Italian history, symbolizing the fight for freedom. 6.4. Birth of the Republic, 1946. After the war ended in 1945, Italy had to decide its future. On June 2, 1946, for the first time in history, Italian men and women voted in a national referendum. They had to choose between keeping the king or becoming a republic. The people chose the republic. The royal family was sent into exile and a new constitution was written. This day, June 2, is still celebrated today as Festa della Repubblica, Italy's national day. 6.5. The economic miracle and beyond. The 1950s and 60s are known as the Il Sorpasso, or the economic miracle. With help from the Marshall Plan, Italy transformed overnight. It moved from being a poor farming country to one of the world's leading industrial nations. Brands. This was the era when names like Ferrari, Fiat, Armani, and Prada became world famous. Lifestyle. Italy became the center of fashion, cinema, the era of La Dolce Vita, and design. European Union. Italy became a founding member of the European Union, helping to build a peaceful and united Europe. 6.6. Italy in 2026, a living museum. As we stand here in 2026, Italy is a country that lives between its glorious past and a modern future. It has the most UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the world. From the ruins of Rome to the fashion runways of Milan and the technology hubs of the North, Italy continues to inspire the world. Its history is a reminder that even after the darkest times, there is always a renaissance waiting to happen.
The eternal journey of Italy. Reflecting on the eras. We have reached the end of our incredible journey through the history of Italy. Let us pause for a moment and look back at the path we have traveled. We started in the ancient mist of Chapter 1, witnessing the birth of Rome from a small village to a powerful republic. In Chapter 2, we saw the Roman Empire at its peak, the master of the world, building roads and monuments that still stand today. Then came the transition in Chapter 3, where the light of the empire faded, but the power of the church rose, keeping civilization alive through the Middle Ages. In Chapter 4, we celebrated the Renaissance. We walked through the streets of Florence with Leonardo and Michelangelo, witnessing a time when human creativity reached the stars. But a divided Italy was a weak Italy. So in Chapter 5, we followed the brave hearts of the Risorgimento, Mazzini, Cavour, and Garibaldi, as they fought to bring all Italians under one green, white, and red flag. Finally, in Chapter 6, we faced the shadows of the 20th century. We saw the rise and fall of fascism and the heroic resistance that led to the birth of the Italian Republic in 1946. What is the legacy of this long history? Italy has taught the world that culture is just as powerful as armies. Law and government. From the Roman Republic, we learned about citizenship and justice. Art and beauty. From the Renaissance, we learned to seek beauty in everything. Resilience. From the world wars, we learned that a nation can always rebuild itself through hard work and passion. Final words for the listener. As you listen to these words in 2026, remember that Italy is not just a place on a map. It is a living museum. Every stone in Rome, every canal in Venice, and every hill in Tuscany tells a story of human struggle and triumph. Thank you for joining me on this historical odyssey. May the lessons of Italy's past inspire your future. Keep practicing your English, keep listening, and keep exploring the stories that made our world. Thank you for listening. Keep practicing every day. This is Jack. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.